tomorrow.
The game in Dublin.
Yeah.
The Dublin game.
The FOMO game.
Were you so sad?
I really was.
Sorry, man.
Spent most of Sunday morning just thinking, what am I doing here? What am I sitting on my couch in a basement in Cincinnati for while this game's happening down the road from home? You know, it's like Cheers music playing in the background. It's like I should have been there. Should have been there.
Texting friends back in the motherland. What's it like over there? There was even sun at the game. It was amazing. It was a special game.
Uh-huh.
Pittsburgh Steelers 24, Minnesota Vikings 21. Steelers move to 3-1. Vikings fall to 2-2. Steelers had this in hand for much of the game. There were some questionable late game decisions, maybe that let the Vikings back into it. Carson Wentz sacked 6 times, so the Steelers
6 or 7.
officially 6 in the box score, but he may have been tackled a few more times than that.
Okay.
With negated plays and such.
And
Steelers defense creating some turnovers, creating havoc as we may have expected them a few weeks ago heading into the season.
Yeah, it did. It looked a lot more like the Steelers defense that we expected to see heading into the year that hadn't been there for the first couple of games. I mean, a big thing of it is, again, Minnesota's offensive line just can't stay healthy. They were down their left guard, Donovan Jackson, the rookie. He's had wrist surgery, I think, is going to miss a few weeks. So he was out heading into the game. At some point, relatively early, 11 snaps or something, Brian O'Neill goes down on a kick, like a field goal attempt, goes down, doesn't come back. So that's your right tackle gone, your left guard gone. Ryan Kelly, the center, came into the game coming off a concussion, leaves again with a concussion. This is the second time in a few years the Vikings have done this. It wasn't quite the same as previously, but that rang a bell when it happened. It's like, hasn't... A couple of years ago, they did this with Christian Darrisaw, but it was back-to-back games. So Darrisaw got concussed in one game, and then the following game played again and left the game with a concussion. So this time Kelly had actually sat out a game. He missed last week. But it's the second time in a few years where the Vikings have had an offensive lineman get concussed and then get concussed immediately upon coming back. And for Ryan Kelly in particular, this is a guy who's had a track record of some concussions. Like that was part of his kind of red flag, if you like, as a concern, being signed in the first place. That's got to be pretty scary. Offensive linemen, you hear them talk about this as a position where you still basically lead with your head almost every single play, and it's the subconcussive blows and blah, blah, blah. That's got to be pretty scary for both Ryan Kelly and the Vikings. But that's, their entire offseason was about rebuilding, overhauling an offensive line. And they haven't come close to having the starting 5 that they expected to have this season for any game so far this season.
And the Steelers took advantage on the other side.
Yeah, if you're going to be losing offensive linemen, that's a bad defense to be playing.
Nick Herbig, Keanu Benton both had multiple sacks, depending on how you want to count them. T.J. Watt had one. Derek Harmon creating pressure. I mean, they were Cam Hayward up front. I mean, it was what we were in all of our preview shows reciting, hey, this Steelers defense has a chance to be really good. It was because of some of the additions in the secondary, like Jalen Ramsey in the hamstring saga, and then the ability to just bring pressure from not just different angles, but with incredible depth on that defensive front. I feel like the last couple of weeks we've seen the havoc that Pittsburgh can create. This was one of those games too where it felt like the Steelers really dominated the game. The Vikings got lucky early. There was a Jordan Mason fumble that was returned for a touchdown. Jalen Ramsey returns it. And then upon replay, Mason was touching the ball out of bounds.
Was that deliberate or not, do you think?
I don't think it was deliberate.
I don't either. I think it was deliberate, and he was trying to get hold of the ball again. I don't think it was, I know I'm out of bounds. If I touch this, the game's dead.
I wasn't.
The play's dead.
It would be. I mean, if there is a fumble,
if that was all conscious, that was like 1,000 IQ play from Jordan Mason. As it was, I think it's just, oh no, I fumbled the ball. I'm trying to get hold of it again. And
I think
he happened to get lucky
that
he was out of bounds at the time, killing the play.
So that saved robbed the Steelers of a touchdown. It looked like they were going to be up 7-0 early.
Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey faked a hamstring injury. So we were all, I put a very funny dad joke out there like, oh, now, tough break for the Steelers. Now all eyes on Jalen Ramsey's hamstring. Everybody's like, come on, man, he didn't. I think he was joking because he did the gritty right after. And then came up playing with a hamstring later.
Well,
you can't. There should be a rule. You cannot fake hamstring injuries once you're in your 30s.
That was the thing. You sent me that text. You shouldn't be allowed to fake a hamstring injury when you're in your 30s. And it was like, Ramsey tempted fate, and then fate took the bait later on. And he's
Can't
like,
do that.
you know what? If you're going to screw around and pretend you got a hammy, we're going to give you a hammy.
Can't do that. Like
Jordan Addison, who, by the way, his return made a big impact for Minnesota's offense. Like, Jordan Addison being back in this lineup makes a big difference to this team. Addison ends up basically smoking Jalen Ramsey down the sideline. Ramsey trying to run and get back in phase with him. Pop, hamstring gone.
So a lot more to unpack on this one too. I thought that the Steelers might struggle with Minnesota's pressure, and immediately, first play, unblocked sack. It's like, all right, this felt like a game where maybe Rodgers gets sacked 5 or 6 times and can't avoid it. But instead, I thought Rodgers full control. This was the best running game that they've had as well. With Jaylen Warren hurt, it was Kenneth Gainwell coming in, who I've always really liked. 19 carries for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns for Gainwell. It was the best run game the Steelers have had all year. And then Rodgers in control at the line of scrimmage. You mentioned last night throwing those little smoke screens and backside slants on run plays. And then the big one, the DK Metcalf 80-yard touchdown, wide open over the middle of the field. So I thought Rodgers really good, effective game. He only threw the ball 22 times, 18 of 22 for 200 yards. He did have a fumble that bounced perfectly to Broderick Jones in stride. What a bounce that was off the Dublin turf there, Sam.
And Rodgers gets up and it's like, thank you. Was that a big third down as well? He took off scrambling.
It was a 10-yard scramble.
Yeah.
And Rodgers, this is the slowest he's ever looked. Clearly. He's struggling to move around.
Yeah.
After being one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the league for years. Picks his spot to scramble, and it's like, all right, it worked. He had wide open green grass, 10-yard gain. I think it was Jonathan Grenard comes in from behind and knocks the ball away, and it just bounces right up to Broderick Jones.
Big break for them, yeah.
But again, the Steelers' offense, I thought, looked just pretty efficient in this game. And then the Vikings, you could tell they were trying to feed Justin Jefferson early, get Carson Wentz and him on the same page, and they did. They did a nice job with that. But it was every third down, Carson Wentz felt like it was either him getting sacked or, throwing the ball to a safety. He had 2 interceptions. And the other place where they got lucky, it looked like James Pierre had a game-ending interception and just bobbled it on the out of bounds. The Vikings ended up with a ton of late-game opportunities, and the Steelers kind of let them back into it, but Steelers ended up holding on 24-21. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Yeah, it was really interesting the way that this Rodgers offense and the Steelers combated Flores and the Vikings defense, because they played when he was with the Jets, and it didn't go well at all, if I remember. And you've got this, the most complex defense in the NFL that causes teams all kinds of problems. And one of the things we said going into the game is what it does generally is it causes you to hesitate, hold the ball longer, and the longer you hold the ball against this defense, the worse things tend to get. The Steelers and Rodgers went to combat that by going, well, let's get the ball out immediately, right? And he had an average time to throw of basically 2 seconds, absurdly fast average time to throw. 2.3 is fast. 2 flat is you're basically negating any and all pass rush at that point. And it was you said this before occasionally, for all the smoke and mirrors, if you can get the ball in the air, at some point you can still get, a guy one-on-one with Jeffrey Okudah, which generally in the NFL and his career so far has been a good thing for the receiver, right? So, and Greg Olsen on the broadcast was kind of highlighting this, that they should be moving around DK Metcalf more, right? Coming into this game, nobody had faced press coverage more than DK Metcalf, which makes sense. Big physical receiver. Let's just get in his face, jam him, try and slow him down. They did a much better job of moving him around in this game, putting him in the slot, getting him away from that press coverage. But then they also felt like they were, I don't know if this was a Rodgers thing or if this was Arthur Smith, but you had this explosion in the NFL of these RPOs, run pass options, for a while, where teams fully built in this kind of concept of, well, it's kind of a run play, but we'll also build in passing concepts to it and really put defenses in a bind. But if you go back beyond that, Brett Favre used to run these way back in the day where they called them package plays, where it wasn't really an RPO, but it's like it's a run play, and then if Brett likes the look, he's just going to throw a backside slant to a receiver, right? So it's like this is a run play, but over there, just be awake, because if the right look is there, I'm just going to throw you a slant. This felt like that, where I don't know if they were fully built out RPOs, but Rodgers was just like, hey, be alive, look alive. If you get the right look, I'm just going to fire you the ball. And they did that a few times, and just this Vikings defense didn't really have an answer for that. They got the ball in the air quickly. They were, negating a lot of the looks. And then obviously you get the big play in there, which is the catch and run to DK Metcalf over the middle, which, by the way, Isaiah Rodgers hit something like 23.5 miles per hour running him down in that play, which is like one of the fastest, NGS times. Oh, the other one later. So Isaiah Rodgers hit, I think, one of the fastest NGS mile per hour numbers they've ever recorded. Peyton Wilson running down Jordan Addison late in the game hit 22.48 miles per hour, which is the fastest mile per hour figure they've ever recorded for a linebacker.
For a linebacker, that's good. All the fastest ones are just, if you run 80 yards, you usually hit your fastest, which is why those things always need context. Couple late game decisions that I wanted to discuss here, though. Pittsburgh's up 10 going in, and so it's 4th and goal from the 3. I think it was Rodgers. They were short. It was 3rd and 11, 3rd and goal from the 11. Rodgers throws a short pass. They get stopped at the 3. And again, up 10, you can kick the field goal to go up 13. We talk about these decisions a lot. The field goal to go up 6. This is essentially the same thing, but with an extra touchdown in there. And Rodgers is saying, no, don't want to kick this thing. They called Minnesota calls a timeout. Steelers come back, 4th and goal from the 3, and they just run it. Get stopped for 2 yards, and so they're up 10. And making the Vikings go 99 yards, which is, interestingly enough, I thought a good decision by head coach Aaron Rodgers to make this call.
Except he took the ball out of his own hands.
Yeah,
that's a rookie decision,
right? But then he runs the ball, and Rodgers.
We say that all the time, right? Like there are two elements to these calls, like the decision to go or no go, and then what play do you call? Those are two slightly separate decisions that are both very important.
And Rodgers is the guy who loves throwing the ball on the goal line, right? Like, he just loves chucking it.
I am an unashamed Greg Olsen, not even apologist, just fan of the way he's so much better than any other color guy in these situations, right? These game management situations where it's like 4th down decisions, go, no go, 2 points or not, when do you go for it, at being able to not only make the sort of appropriately, the call, do you go for it, do you not, but also explain what the decision is to everybody, right? And there was one earlier as well where it's like he's also, not only does he know the rules, but he's good at explaining, like he knows what people are going to question. So there was a play where was Jalen Redmond tossed Aaron Rodgers to the turf using the back of his jersey, and he's aware, not only is it not a horse collar, but he's also aware that everyone's going to think that's a horse collar tackle, so I should explain in 5 seconds why it's not.
Yeah.
He's so good at that. And I'm not going to name names at other color guys, but the difference between him yesterday explaining each one of these decisions quickly and efficiently and correctly, and other color analysts who are I don't even really know what the decision is here. I don't know. You should go for it. It's like the difference between him and other guys is ridiculous in these situations.
It's what we said. Why even ask the color guy if there's not really a great explanation?
Well, if they're clearly clueless about what's going on at the time, what's the point in asking him his opinion?
Anyway, 10-point game, all of a sudden, 81-yard busted coverage to Jordan Addison from Carson Wentz. Vikings go in.
Still kind of amazed he didn't score on that play.
I know.
Even because he caught it and then stumbled a little bit, which is part of the reason Peyton Wilson ran him down. But even then, it looked like he was going to get in right until he didn't.
So that makes it Vikings score a touchdown. That makes it 24-21. Then the Steelers drive down. They get to the Minnesota 40 with a 4th and 1. Mm-hmm. And I had in between, the Vikings went for the onside kick. Obviously didn't get it.
I'd forgotten Roman Wilson existed until he fell on the onside kick. He's like, oh, look, Roman Wilson's still there. Like, because it'd be,
where's that breakout
We were like
season?
going into the year being like, man, it's a pretty big year for Roman Wilson to show that he can be a guy. And that's become Calvin Austin. And we've just sort of forgotten that Roman Wilson's alive.
Yeah.
But he was the guy that recovered the onside kick, which is expected, but notable.
So then I was watching a little bit of college football the other day, and I just, tweeted out there, like, it is around both on Saturday and Sunday, Sam. It's pretty much an auto go.
Yeah.
On 4th and short in between the 40s.
Yeah.
Right now. Remember, rest in peace, the cowardly punt calculator thing that was out there, right?
But that was always the first area where this started to be a thing.
It was
right?
goal
way
line
back
too.
in the day.
It was tight goal line and in between the 40s.
But this was always,
especially on the plus side of the 40.
This was always the most likely for those guys to go for it on 4th down. Like way back in the dinosaur era of nobody ever goes for it on 4th down, this was the first one to start. It's like, if you're on your opponent's side of the 50-yard line, but it's not quite field goal range, and this was back when field goal range was like, long 40s. Well, maybe we'll go for it here.
So anyway, this is just watching a lot of college football and a lot of NFL. You don't even flinch anymore, right? You're on your own 40, your own 45. You're on the 45 going in. This time you're on the 40 going in the same decision, right? You're up 3 in a world where the 60-yard field goal is in play, even in Dublin, and you got one play to win it. Got one play to win it.
This was the classic one where it's like you end the game right now if you get a foot, right? It was 4th and a foot, and Pittsburgh chose to give the Vikings a chance to win the game with 1:06 left on the clock. And the thing is, if the punt goes into the end zone, you only gain like 20 yards of field position. Like it's so little, right?
And so what happened? Minnesota takes a delay. Pittsburgh takes a delay of game. They punt it from the 45 and punt it into the end zone to get 25 yards of field position.
I also
20 yards essentially.
Yeah. At the risk of becoming a complete Greg Olson fanboy, he was making the point at the time this happened. He's like, and you know what? It doesn't even matter from this point if they win the game or not. It doesn't change the process, right? Don't let whatever happens from this point on. Because the thing is, the Pittsburgh defense was destroying Minnesota largely in the game, right? There's a pretty good chance that their defense will hold and they will win this game. However, that does not change the fact that all you need is a foot to literally end the game from this point.
The both things are true, right?
Pittsburgh's in either situation, they had a good chance of winning the game.
Defense had been playing well, but they just gave up a 99-yard drive, which included an 81-yard busted coverage. That's the point. You don't want to tempt that and say, okay, defense, go do it again. Now, it worked out because, okay, Minnesota, go 80 yards, get into field goal range to tie it up. Carson Wentz throws an interception on the first play, gets overturned. James Pierre couldn't hold it. Then he gets sacked, and pretty much the game's over with an intentional grounding. I thought Carson Wentz's old-school pocket presence showed up in this one. He was under a lot of pressure, but he also wasn't getting rid of the ball, making quick decisions, and certainly not at that point doing a good job. So I thought Pittsburgh's defense, as we talked about, played the way they should, created havoc, and got the win. It was this was probably the best all-around team effort from Pittsburgh, where I thought the offense was efficient. The defense was very good outside of a couple big plays, and it should have been even worse if they didn't, if they had the fumble 6. But the only question would be a little bit of the game management, which I wouldn't want to roll that dice again. In the same opportunity.
I think there were some questionable game management situations. I feel like they will always be a little bit like that. I think Mike Tomlin is a very good head coach. I also think he's a little bit too old school in mentality in these types of situations that occasionally will come back to bite them. The other thing I've noticed that for at least the second time this year, the end of the Jordan Addison series, so Peyton Wilson runs him down. It looked for a second like that was going to be the difference between, they're not going to score on this drive. And it took them, was it 4th down? They finally punched it in. They ran a play, had a guy coming all the way across the formation, ended up wide open. Carson Wentz holds it long enough. Finally gets in the touchdown. And for the second time this year, there was a big play resulting in a score where the two linebackers, Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen, turn around and immediately start yelling at each other. Like, what the hell? Somebody screwed up. I can't remember what the other one was, but there was a much bigger play up the seam. And again, like
New England last week with Hunter Henry.
Yeah, that's exactly. And for the second time, they both just turned around like, what So somebody's screwing up on a regular basis between those two guys who are like super athlete linebackers, but in
Peyton
Wilson's
Wilson
case, he
got
hasn't been in the
benched
league that
and
long.
Peyton Wilson lost some snaps last week.
Right.
It's a whole Cole Holcomb. So,
But for the second time in fairly quick succession on pretty important plays, those two have not been able to get on the same page and have blown a coverage somewhere.
all right, man. Extra time on the Dublin game for your FOMO. Steelers get the win. I got no more use for that game.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
And the all-knowing algorithm is convinced you'll also like these videos, and who are we to argue?